Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Here we go, here we go. What do you know? Getting started. Again, so much to cover. Cliff Schecter will be joining us in just a minute. And as soon as he does, we'll get rolling. Or I might jump in a moment early because there's a lot going on. Here's this. Try to get you guys up. Whoops. There we go. Say hello, pass around the show. Let them know. So much going on. Oh yeah, Bongholio got a new job. I wonder if that ends his live stream. All right. Instagram is up and running now. Excellent. And I'm keeping an eye out for Cliff. He'll join us in just a minute as he gets set up. So I'm just going to jump in real quick, if I may. And I think that I can. Yeah, let's do this. Here we go. So, welcome to the show, everybody. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. What's going on? Happy Monday. It's Housesparks Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/Housesparks. What else? The Venmo will show up on occasion. It's not always there, so you got to keep an eye out for it because I'm just not the kind of person who can do the hard sell all the time. I hear somebody in the background. Maybe some breathing and some moving around. Nope, not yet. We shall see what we shall see. All right. And as soon as Cliff comes in, I'm going to pop him in there. He can only be with us for about like a half an hour. He's got a big thing tomorrow, which I'm going to be a part of, by the way, and I'll let him tell you. In the meantime, I'd like to bring in the chat, and we'll discuss a couple things. Hi, kids. So many of you have, of course, heard, Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard now own any terrorist act or violence that occurs inside the United States. And for the first 6 weeks of them being in there, they will obviously blame anyone but themselves. But let's remind everyone that from the second a Democrat takes over, everything is their fault, even stuff that started months before they came into office. And so I think we should return the favor. Also, I think that these guys will, categorically take their eye off the ball. And Patel and Bongholio and Tulsi Gabbard and Trump will, when something awful happens, God forbid, they will blame someone else. They will throw it down the chain, blame their lackeys, or they will, thank you very much. I'm glad you like my shirt as well. I believe in reclaiming icons. We'll talk about that at some point in the near future. Never let them take away cultural icons from you, especially when they are used as a way to power things. Oh, wow. Hal, you were in the Sunday crossword puzzle yesterday, 70 down. Excellent. Thanks, Marlene. That, my mom collects those. So send me a link to that so that I can, because I've been, that's a double-edged sword, I have to say, being the like the clue in a crossword puzzle or being in a crossword puzzle at all, because either they're saying, oh, well, this is an easy one, or this will really be hard. Who's the funny Hal, right? Yeah. Like, oh, it's not Holbrook. What was that asshole who was on Talk Soup, right? Like, if you really want people to stretch. But I actually think, depending on what publication it's in, it might actually be an easy one. They might be giving it as a layup, and I'm very proud of that fact that I often am. I was also a question on Jeopardy, also a layup. If you didn't get that one, it was like, come on, man. That's why they won't have me on the Masked Singer, because they're like, oh my God, he sang 3 different artists and sounds just like them. He's a perfect mimic and he has perfect pitch. It's got to be Hal Sparks, right? It would never. Yeah. Anyways, multiple times I've been passed on for the Masked Singer specifically for that reason. And Ken Jeong and I are never going to be able to get our Remo Williams remake off the ground if they don't do it. So thanks. Everybody's dealing with the people that have finally gotten around to dealing with the long hair are now dealing with the facial hair. I'm glad we're embracing change. Of course, it's discrimination. We all face discrimination in our lives. Otherwise, what would you have to overcome? Like, relax into it. Hey, man, if they have to discriminate against you, that means they know they're weak. So, yeah, if the algorithm has to attack you, it means they know you say something worthwhile. I'm just saying. Or you're a complete monster. That's always a possibility. I've never believed like that whole like, well, if you're being vilified in the press, you must be onto something. I don't know. I think sometimes you could just be a violent, racist, misogynistic prick, right? That's why they don't want you on their platform. That could be a possibility. I'm just saying, just because it's that old the old Oscar Wilde thing about the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about, right? It's kind of, unless you're Jeffrey Epstein or Hitler, you know what I mean? There are a lot of worse things Epstein did and worse things Hitler did in their life, worst elements of their I guess their oeuvre, the impact they had on the planet, that were far worse than whatever conversation was happening around them. Yes? I'm just saying. So that whole thing, I would like to automatically debunk right out of the gate that idea that if people are mad, you must be doing something right. No, I mean, if you're running through a hospital cutting IV cables with a pair of scissors, lots of people would be angry. All the conscious patients, the doctors and nurses, and of course, obviously, state officials, hat, nightstick, gun, might also be upset at you as well, right? You don't get automatic points for how pissed people are. Yeah? Doesn't work. So, I have arrived. It's true in terms of that. And I want to remind everybody, whatever platform you're on, unless it's Facebook, give me a thumbs up. If you're on Facebook, let's see, 12. So why don't we do 12:30 to 1? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, his time. Yeah, I think Tara's only coming in the second hour. Totally good. That's what I assumed. I think like if he's at the half hour point, totally works. It'll give him a time to throw some coffee down his throat and relax into it. And also, I got to tell you, part of the issue these days with the show is which fires that need to be put out. Hold on, let me put this whole thing. That need to be put out take priority. There is there's no end to the number of stories that I'm covering at any given moment. And Trump, in many ways, has. Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, this is probably, where are you? Yeah, okay. So in the middle of Trump acquiescing to Putin while at the same time offering to clean up Gaza and push everyone out and rehab it and build it, while all the Gazans and the people in the West Bank, aka Judea and Samaria, are punted out to some sideline to be named later country, not Jordan, not Egypt, somewhere else. Libya looks like one of the places that they're trying to offer up as a way of creating a peaceful transition to normalizing relations with Libya. Like, we'll do it if you take all these people. Doesn't really help that both Libya and Eritrea have are two of the prime places that they're talking about, and both have an active slave market going on right now. Just saying. Wouldn't be my first choice for relocation if I was a refugee. Not that they give a shit. So, myriad of things, like, I don't know, if he's going to claim Gaza and clean it up and rehab it, why not the Donbass? I'll tell you why, because Putin wouldn't give him permission to do that, but he would give him permission to yammer on about the Middle East and pretend that we're allegedly not going to be in forever wars. How many times have we heard the phrase forever wars? Tulsi Gabbard's favorite phrase, no more forever wars. Okay, World War II wasn't a forever war. World War I wasn't a forever war. Even the Vietnam War wasn't a forever war. Even the Cold War, arguably, if in its primary James Bond state that existed for 35, 40 years, wasn't a forever war. It transmuted into an economic and, I would say, intelligence war after the faux fall of the Soviet Union in 91, which I personally believe was a rope-a-dope, but that's a conversation for another time. But this idea of forever wars, we hear this a lot. What the forever? Okay, that doesn't apply to fucking anything. We're not talking about the goddamn Mongolians re-seizing Europe. We're not talking about the obvious issues between Ireland and England. We're not certainly talking about some leftover Roman Germanic shit between Austrians and Germans. What we are talking about, and what anybody who's honest about this conversation and where this all came from, what this was leading up to, was the No More Forever Wars call that you heard repeatedly. And it sounds great. It sounds like the ultimate version of peace. We don't want, if something happens, if it can't be solved quickly, we're not interested. Right? For Joy says, it seemed like forever when I was a child. Yes, well, exactly. They do at the time. So 100 Years' War wasn't a forever war. That's a great point, Greg. When they say forever war, what they mean is the Abrahamic Wars. What they mean is the wars that aren't about territory and cannot be satisfied by acquiescence because the other side needs to be eliminated. And when they talk about forever wars, No More Forever Wars is code for the two-state solution for the Palestinians and the Israelis. That's got to go. No more forever wars. No more allowing for Iran, in this case, and how they view it, to continue opening fronts. That's got to be over. And so when they say no more forever wars, they mean basically it's time to pull off the bandage and start stabbing. And that's exactly, if you look at the strategy, that's what they're talking about. The no more forever wars means end it quickly and stop trying to negotiate. They view the Israeli-Gaza issue as a forever war. Trump and his ilk view it as a forever war. And when they say they want to end it, that means finally, no goodbye two-state solution. Nobody wants to negotiate anymore. End it. That's what they mean. They don't mean we shouldn't be involved in these ongoing things and spend taxpayer money on foreign wars in countries nobody understands. No. The primary one is no more support for a religious war that, if we're on one side of it, just shit or get off the pot. That's it. And and usually this will mean the Islamists push to redefine the Middle East. There is no negotiating with them. It's got to be over. That's what they're talking about. Okay, don't think for a second they mean non-interventionism. How do I know this? How do I know how? How do you know that they don't mean, just America needs to enter a phase of, economic strategy and peace? What Trump says he wants to be the peace president. How do you know that's not true? I'll tell you why. Because only a frigging lunatic would suggest in the same breath that they want to be the peace president, that the United States will, quote, own Gaza, will displace everyone there, and it will be a big, beautiful place for all the people of the world except the Palestinians, and think that's going to happen peacefully. It's ridiculous. Like, no one thinks that. No one. Including, I would argue, Trump himself. What they mean is, it's going to be ugly, but fuck them. We'll get it over with. That's what that means. Secondarily, who else says we're interested in no more forever wars, because that's indicative of our non-interventionist strategy, and then declares the cartels, for example, in Mexico as de facto governors of half of Mexico, and declares them a terrorist state, and then says we're going to start bombing them with the permission of the Mexican government. Again, not exactly a non-interventionist policy, is certainly will require boots on the ground or the firing of American missiles into another country. So the idea that he wants to be the peace president or something is garbage. They know it. Everybody knows it. It's dumb. And again, if that's your policy, just fucking say it. Don't be a coward about it. Just go, no more forever wars because we've been negotiating back and forth and there's nothing to be negotiated, so let's just get this over with. We're on the side of Israel, or we're on the side of, or we're not on the side of Ukraine, or whatever it is. Say your piece and live up to it. Don't hide behind this faux peacenik bullshit. Because that's what he's doing. He's hiding behind and this is how he ended up with, in some ways, getting a bunch of, the uncommitted and the Arab Americans for Trump and all who've changed their name to Arab Americans for Peace. And let me tell you, did those guys' goals change before and after the election? It's sort of a trick question. I will admit that it is a trick question, and here's why. Are all Arabs Muslim? No. Are all Arab Muslims on the same side? Obviously not. Are some Arabs on opposite sides so far on opposite sides that they don't give a rat fuck about any Arabs in between the citizenry of either of their countries? Of course. Are those the poor ones? In some cases. Are they the rich ones? Absolutely. Are the rich ones the ones that tend to have a house in London or live in Qatar or move to the United States? Are they the ones that can afford to get out? Are they the same folks that we think of as coming across the southern border to, quote, do the jobs that Americans don't want to do? It's somebody who flies here with their family, overstays a visa, and then applies for asylum and that kind of stuff. And yet, during that asylum period, when they're supposedly, scared to go home, flying back to Syria or flying back to Iran or flying back to Qatar or any other places where they allegedly fled oppression, they're going back there for trips, but they're living in the United States under asylum rules. They do it in the UK as well. And are those folks the same as your kind of average Americanized or democracy appreciating Muslim family that, you know, either moved to Michigan or someplace like that, or converted once they were there, or grew up in it, or married into it? Are they the same folks? No. And then you have to ask yourself, are those the people that I'm talking about, the ones that are from Syria or from Iran or from other places who claim to be, and this is obviously not the vast majority of them, is the pivotal activist or slacktivist crowd, are they honest in their support of the Palestinians? Could you listen to Donald Trump and what he was saying? Could you honestly listen to Donald Trump and what he was saying during the campaign and think, this guy's going to do what's right for the Gazans? This guy is going to protect the West Bank. The guy who recognized the Golan Heights and moved the capital to Jerusalem, moved the embassy there, which is, again, the trigger that told Yahweh Sinwar, he said in his papers and told everybody that this was the reason they planned October 7th, was because they presumed that based on that move by Trump, that this was the end. And so this would be their, you know, it's all out war now. That was the premise, was that, okay, if they're doing this, that means we're next. Doesn't excuse what they did at all. But the idea that Trump was like, all I did was, you know, a bunch of other presidents didn't do that, and I came in and did it right away. It was super easy, and there was no bloodshed. No, there was October 7th. Directly links to what happened. And the whole idea, no more forever wars. No more, you know, America's getting out of other people's business. No, we're not. We're tacitly, if you're in a situation where there's an aggressor attacking a weaker party, and you can help and you don't, you are automatically, ethically on the side of the aggressor. If you can't help, get out of the way and call for help, I suppose. But if you can, you either, you have to admit you don't care, or you are on the side of the attacking party. That's just life. Right? And so, in the meantime, Elon Musk, who apparently word is getting around that he is the president now, to everybody, hijacked TV screens in the Housing and Urban Development building, showed a video. Let me see if this is yeah, they have it in here, I think. It should play in this. It'll load or something. Try to bring it up on there. Why are you not playing, you silly thing? They probably took it down because it was probably on Twitter. Anyways, it showed Trump basically licking Elon Musk's feet and said, "Long live the king," at Housing and Urban Development. Some dude wrote, Iranians see the hijab headscarf as a symbol of oppression, but people assume they're in line with Arab Muslims. Iran was colonized by Arab Muslims. Yeah, that I would agree with that. Islam itself is 1,000 years younger than the other two Abrahamic traditions, Judaism and Christianity. So if you want to talk about indigenous religions, Islam is the latecomer. And in particular, the Persians themselves seem to be reclaiming their identity. And again, the historical backdrop of Iranians, I mean, again, the British used to go ski there. Iranians used to travel to Europe all the time. It was, Iran was like it was a European country in the Middle East because of their values and that kind of stuff. And the Islamic takeover changed all that. Anyways, so this was fairly hilarious, and no word on who did it. Obviously, I believe it was the Doge guys who were doing Musk a favor. That's my belief. I don't think it was a hacker who hates both of them. I think it was Musk's guys showing fealty and embarrassing Trump, which will happen on the regular. And I think it is best to assume that's who's doing it. Hal, are you doing this? Are you saying this just because you know it will gin up the paranoia in the White House and drive a wedge between these two guys? Maybe. but prove to me otherwise. Right? Until I see otherwise, the only new people around HUD are the people Trump has put in, and the only tech guys roaming around the halls of all these agencies are Musk's guys. And who does that video support and put in a subservient position? Musk is the protagonist, and Trump is the servant. So sounds like something your buddy would do, especially if he's trying to show fealty to you. Yes? So pretty hilarious. The other thing, I mean, there's a lot of things to cover. Let me show you, if I may. One of the big things also, there's keep an eye out. I think James Howard came out here and was talking about how there's a raccoon running around with its tail caught in a mouse trap, and it's starting to think it's a smell a rat, or whatever. He was on Fox News, and he said he made a fairly heavy prediction, which was that the Trump administration will collapse in 30 days, that the wall shows up in 30 days. That's about we're getting close to the 100-day mark, I think is where he's going with it. A little over that. March 14th, the Ides of March. But I think, as we get towards where the window where you see the end of the 100 days is coming, and they haven't been able to do a bunch of their shit yet, and it's been a lot of sales, but not a lot of results, and then they'll get less and less time to get a harder and harder metric to reach. That's when the news stories will start to tip. Now, you could argue they already have. There's a ton of Fox pushback on people getting fired that, in states where, again, one of the things about red states, we've talked many, many times. You and I have talked, chat room, many, many times about how red states receive more in federal funds than they give, and blue states pour their money into these red states, and the red states say the federal government can't do anything right, when if it wasn't doling out the money, their states would have collapsed a long time ago. And they need to know it. They need to be reminded of it. They need to be told. These folks, and the funny thing is, if we tell them, it doesn't land. If we tell them, I don't think they kind of, they think it's just political posturing. They automatically just dismiss anything that somebody on our side of the aisle would say. But when they see it happening around them, they can only deny it for so long, right? They can only BS themselves for so long. It's an extraordinary length of time compared to anybody else. And look, the activist and slacktivist class of humans out there, one of the things that they have the ability to do is bullshit themselves. Because anytime you put horse blinders on, even if you're positively trying to focus on something and forget the parts of the world around you that you don't need interfering with your task, you're going to miss important details, and you're going to have to push away at those. Here comes Cliff. There he is. Pop him in the background. Hold on. I don't hear you, my friend. You see, I don't hear audio coming from you. You're not sending audio to me. I don't see the little green shoots that lets me know. But we'll get you in there in just 1 second. Hold on, I'm pasting, and we'll get this young man in here as soon as we start getting audio sourced properly. There, I see something. Okay, I see it. Why do I not hear it? I know why. Okay, give me 1 second. I will switch something around, and we will get you up and running. But I see the green audio coming to me. 3, 2, 1, and this guy, and we go back to this one, and we go to here, and we go to this guy right here, and I think we'll be able to hear you just fine. Give me a check. There, Cliff.
Hello, hello, hello.
There he is. Now, you're a little crunchy, and I think that might be because the audio on your side is 44K instead of 48, is a possibility. But give me a sign back into there. Might be that thing. I'll refresh your mic. I just turned off all the other kind of noise canceling stuff on there, and hopefully it will refresh in just a moment. Dun, 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 dun. I see it. Can you hang up and dial back in real quick if you change that or what have you, and then I'll put you back in and we'll bring you up. Cliff will be with us in just one moment. He's got a big surprise for you guys tomorrow. It has to do with this push towards Substack that's been a going on, and I'm for it. You know me, I don't believe in putting all your eggs in one social media basket, kids. I don't trust any of these companies with my livelihood or my content because they can go away at any time. They are private companies. We don't have any access to them at all. There he is.
No, here. Am I in?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, give me 1 second and I'll copy you and pop you in, and then we'll see you in just a second. There we go. And
my apologies.
Fear not. That's absolutely.
I'm scared crapless for tomorrow. Else, one thing to have a little bit of problem like this, and then 12-hour live stream tomorrow. I'm already freaking out. I got to be honest with you.
I completely understand, and I'm sorry if it's a little choppy at times, kids. We're working that part of it out. So there's a Cliffathon tomorrow. Starts at during your time on Stephanie Miller's show in the morning. You're going to be on her last hour of her show, and then on.
Actually, this is so annoying. Okay, yeah, it looks like it's working now. Actually, I'm going to be on, going on at 8 a.m. in the morning. It's a 12-hour Cliffathon because I'm just that stupid. And I thought, why not? Because I'm launching, I'd already sort of started a Substack, but I'm launching full bore. I don't think sort of a lot of folks knew that. I've got a large online list, and I've used it to raise money for Democrats for a number of years now, liberal causes. We started sending out a newsletter, as something kind of engage our audience, to make sure they got information instead of disinformation. And
we were just smooth for a second.
It's gone a life of its own.
Yeah.
Oh, do you still have me?
Yeah, I do. It's just it's choppy for some reason again, and I'm not quite sure why. Other than that, if we're at the 48K, we should be all right. Yeah, it's a choppy thing.
It's telling me I don't know.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let's see if
Sorry.
This helps at all. That's okay. I'm fixing some stuff on my end to see if it smooths things out on this end. Should be. Let's see. Yeah, fire away.
Hey, Case. The quick promo is we start at 8 a.m. We go to 8 a.m. During that time, I'll simulcast. So I'm trying to figure out. You told me because you're a very smart man. Instead of doing it from my phone, I try to do it from my laptop, which is a whole other thing with Substack. But if we can make that work, that'll work out well. So I will be on with Stephanie 11 to 12. You will be joining me. Got you in the calendar. I got it.
That's right.
Times you told me the time. I can't remember that could do it.
Hold on. I'm turning off your echo cancellation and your noise suppression and all that kind of stuff to see if that fixes the that thing, and I might ask you to refresh your mic and try again. Beg your pardon. Sorry about this, Cliff. Yeah. So can you hear me? Because I don't hear you now. That's one of the issues with it. Hold on 1 second. I will try to do this. One of the other options is, give me 1 second. I will take this and I will mute that. And then what I'm going to do is go into here and allow myself to control your audio via OBS. There we go. And whoops. Oh, hold on. There we go. And perhaps, let's see. Excellent. And I think I see it in there. There we go. Let me see if I can monitor this. And then monitor only. There you go.
Testing.
Yep, that didn't solve it.
Now I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, you would. Hold on. My bad. I try to fix when it's just digital. It's just the interwebs. It's cliff overload is what we're dealing with.
Nobody ever have to deal with that, honestly.
That's
That
right.
should be a crime, which it may be under the Trump administration. We don't know. He signed so many executive orders. There could have been one in there about that.
Yeah, I think he may have outlawed his own presidency by accident. That's one of the upsides, I think, to all of this stuff is that it is so slapdash. There is no legal protection for so much of what he is trying to do. They almost like, his little statement, his little like cast aside to the governor of Maine the other day where he's like, we are the law or whatever, points to a weakness in his mentality that they're not going to try and to sort of balance the law with what really is on the books and what they're trying to accomplish. They're just going to write some sort of slapdash piece of shit. Yeah.
I mean, has he ever, in any part of his life, corporate, his foundation, which he got banned from ever running again in New York, I mean, if you look at corporate, nonprofit, politics, he's never done anything in an honest way. He's never respected rules, laws, norms, or any of that. So why, again, the people that sort of, most people, unless they have some sort of religious awakening, hit their head on a large rock or something happens, who they are is who they're going to be. They don't really change. Some of us mature. We get a little bit better. I like to think I'm more mature than I was when I was 16. Debatable. But he's this is who he is with fewer guardrails. He knew which places to stick, the crazy Kash Patels and people like that this time. And in the end, the thing is, look, people are being hurt, but it's backfiring massively. Well, one thing that has impressed me is the judiciary has held. I thought we were going to have a bunch of Eileen Cannons, but his own. I mean, there was a great, back and forth that I did a video about with that human piece of Wonder Bread, Scott Jenkins on Zen, and Abby Phillips when he was arguing with Trump, but like, oh, these leftist judges. She just started naming. She's like, you mean this judge that was appointed by Trump? This judge is appointed by Trump. This judge is appointed by George.
Hold on one second.
This judge is appointed by Reagan.
I think it's a cyclical thing where the internet is having its ebbs and flows today. So you were very smooth for a minute and then it started getting all jaggedy again. So I'll use that as an opportunity to maybe wait until it passes. Maybe it's like a seventh wave surfing kind of thing. And if we can just get over that hump, literally it will, or figuratively, I guess, digitally.
It's Elon Musk's fault.
It is. Yeah, he's messing with us. So here's what I would say, that I think you're right about the judiciary holding. And I think you're going to see a similar thing happening with his attempt to get a budget through in the House and Senate with Republicans for a couple of reasons. These are the two primaries. That one, I am hearing a lot of right-wing Republicans, not quite the Freedom Caucus-y crowd, but certainly people who were, Freedom Caucus adjacent or in the House or the Senate, all of a sudden talking like Democrats about making sure that the government is run well and we don't do these slapdash cuts and pushing back on these letting Elon Musk run amok, or even in the case of letting Putin have his way in Ukraine. They're all starting to parrot stuff they wouldn't dare say last year during the campaign, but now that it's actually happening, they're pushing back. And I would love to think, like the judiciary or something, that they're doing it out of a love for the Constitution and America and that kind of stuff. But I honestly think it's two things. One is their own preservation instinct as needing voters, that their voters are going to turn on them if they let him fuck up their district, because red states rely so much on federal programs, federal buildings, federal jobs, support structures around military bases are all, near a military base, there will also be these giant federal outposts all the time. Because
I mean, a lot of the West always acts like, they're the Wild West and everything was libertarian. Goldwater used to love to say that, and people would be like, where are most of the air bases out there? Oh, Arizona, right? Yeah, you guys did it all.
Right.
His dad, I think, owned a store right outside of the base, and that's how they made their money. It's like, if we hadn't put the base out there, your dad wouldn't have had a store. Like, they don't seem to grasp all of that.
Right.
I think you're very right. I will say this, though. I do think, unlike the Federalist Society Republicans in robes that aren't actual judges on the Supreme Court, and Eileen Cannon, I do think the legislature are complete wimps, and you're right. They go with the wimp. I do think there are a few judges, we've seen a few of them who've come out against Trump, conservative judges, once they're retired or whatever, who do it their whole lives because they do actually respect the law. I could say I know one personal case, and this is somebody I just have known since a long time, whose dad was a lawyer became a federal judge and was a Republican, but not a crazy one, appointed by George W. Bush, And I can just tell you that this judge has already slapped down Trump twice. So, there are people like that that are there that took an appointment from somebody, even if he didn't love George W. Bush. I don't know whether he did or not. But, and then there are other ones exactly as you're saying, which is they realize, what's her name? Overall,
Right.
what's her first name? The one who's like, their children, and they made fun of her on Saturday Night Live, and then she realized when they're cutting off the National Institutes for Health, all the stuff, that the University of Alabama was going to get destroyed, and suddenly,
Yeah.
oh wait, no, not that. That's
Right. So hold for a second, because we hit another one of those choppy points. I don't know what that is, but it seems to come in waves. It's okay. No. Most of it got out just fine, which I think is good. But
my earbud? I could go through my earbud and unplug the mic and see if that helps.
Perhaps. Yeah, it could be. Well, we can see if that helps.
I don't know. Might as well try.
May be the jag back and forth between. I'm sure there's a secondary delay from Bluetooth headphones and a live physical mic is always an issue, but we'll see. It'll have to refresh on your AirPods. Hold on, I'll request that, and then we'll see if it does it. There you go. So the point I would make, though, and I don't know if Cliff will be able to hear this while he's switching his headphones up. Maybe so. There he is. Let's do check. One. Can you hear me? I don't hear you quite yet. Default audio refresh. There you go. We'll refresh that, see if it comes through. It might take a second for it to wake itself up in that regard. That often happens. But I guess the question is, do they really give a shit, or is it self-preservation? And I think in the case of the courts, there is a lot of this that is simply them trying to protect their power base. Are you able to hear me, Cliff? Are you able to, yep. So, yeah, I don't see audio coming from you right now. So give me 1 second. Might have to swap around and try your MacBook. Maybe that works. Your actual laptop mic might be a thing. Sometimes it happens. It's the Mac defaults to the 48K. I've discovered that some of the chop might be caused by that. And so Andrea should be able to, we should tell everybody to make sure their audio's on 48K when they come in, because that makes this whole thing smoother, I guess. But in the process... could it be that they care? Would it be nice if they cared? Sure. But ultimately, if it's simply them protecting their own power base that allows them to, that makes them do the right thing because they don't want the power taken away from the courts. They don't want Trump to, if Trump says, I am the law, that's him saying, fuck the SCOTUS. We don't need you anymore. And if Trump says, if he's line item vetoing stuff out of the budget by destroying entire departments that were created by the Congress and are funded by the Congress, then that is de facto the line item veto that the Congress has been pushing back for a long time, because it would remove many of the powers that they have. And they can't go back to they can go back right now. The Freedom Caucus and the entire Republican Congress right now, all they can go back to their constituency and say is, trust the all-knowing Trump, because I can't do anything about this anymore. My cuts won't matter. If I cut stuff and he decides he likes the program, he's gonna put it back in place. If I don't cut the program, or if we cut a program and he likes it, he'll put it back. If we want a program, he might just decide it's too expensive or it's not his priority and he'll get rid of it, which is. So that extracts that power from Congress, and I don't see them giving that power up quietly. Oops, I'm still not hearing you. Hold on. Log back in if you could, and we'll pop you back in. I apologize. It's very wonky. I think I'm under attack from the Doge bags. I think that's what's happening. I think I'm going to have to find a less open source way of getting my guests into the show. That's what I think. Probably what's going to happen, kids. That's what's, yep, I know it. It's going to have, and we'll be able to hear him, and here he comes.
Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Still a little crunkly, but we'll be all right. I'll pop you back in.
I used to have some issues with this microphone, but then we got it set up properly, and I haven't in weeks, so I don't. I don't know, man. This is a shit that worries me tomorrow, like with that live stream.
Oh, and I would argue it's on my end with the video. It's not yours. Don't worry about it. It's the crisscross between systems or whatever. You'll be fine tomorrow. That won't affect you or whatever. I'm just using this because it's one of the easier and more consistent ways of getting people in. But I think it's under attack. Quite frankly, I think that's what's happening. Last time we had this problem, I switched my room. I changed the password and all the stuff to the room, and suddenly things got smoother again until they found it. I think I have to name my room something that is not associated with me, so they can't do a hunt for it, bring it up. That'll probably be the only way. In the meantime, though, what I was saying was that it's either their own sense of preserving their sense of power, or they actually care about the Constitution. I would prefer the latter. But if it's the former, it helps us out, so I don't really care. And that's where ego in some of these cases is our friend. So Elon Musk sends out this email to federal workers and says, justify your job or you're resign. And one of the first things Kash Patel does as head of the FBI is send out an email, ignore that.
Right. See, the problem when people, are you hearing me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
The problem when you get I always use this sort of explanation. I remember having to explain to my kids when we watched, like, the newer, or I guess, older in time, but newer Star Wars movies. And he couldn't understand, like, why one of the Siths would betray another one. I'd have to say to him, you see, because they're not a team. They're all evil. So they're all out for themselves. They use each other when it makes sense. But otherwise, it's not like the good guys who actually care about people. And it's really just that simple. It's that Kash Patel, and I mean, you've got Steve Bannon cursing out. What did he call? He called Musk a parasite, which is funny because I think a good number of parasites actually live on Steve Bannon's body, but that's a different story. And the same thing. Trump said that he wanted to hire somebody smarter than Musk because clearly he was getting pissed off that Musk was getting all the attention. The thing is that when you've got a bunch of people motivated by all the wrong reasons, by greed, by resentment, by ego, by narcissism, is that they're going to inevitably fight with each other over things. And as you just said, if you can play to all of that, it's like almost the same playbook, sadly, that the Russians use to turn Americans, right? Ego. I mean, if you know that certain people on the right, just go play it up, that another right winger insulted them, and maybe they'll vote. They won't vote for them. Like they generally have the intellectual capacity of children, and
and the emotional capacity, right?
They're still like you or me when we were 11 fighting over a swing in the playground, right? So I mean, you really very easily can manipulate them, and I think that's all of those kinds of areas that we should be looking for. And then they're worried about their own re-elections, and like they're going to. I mean, as of right now, if we lived in a system that had been founded later, which would benefit us at this point, where we realize the benefits of having a vote of no confidence and things of this sort, and not having to wait like we have to now forever. Like Trump is, I think he may have, I don't know, I haven't seen, his numbers may have fallen in the 30s by now. He didn't tell people he was doing most of this. It's literally an online meme of MAGA people crying, screaming, complaining that I thought he was just going to deport people, not take my job, and a lot of these government jobs, they didn't realize, they thought they all were, in their minds, bureaucrats in Washington. And it's like, no, if you work for the Park Service or you work for like all these sorts of places, guess what? You're out there living your great life, your right-wing life you think you enjoy in Wyoming, and now you don't have a job.
Right.
And it's because Trump fired you, or Elon Musk fired you. And you're seeing more and more of that. And then you throw in what Musk has done. Musk right now, people understand the way polling works. I can explain this very simply. Pew just interviewed over 5,000 people. That is a huge sample. And they found that Musk is not only net negative, 36% of the people in there found him very unfavorable. Now, I'm going to put that in English for you. Very unfavorable equals I hate your effing guts. Yeah. All right? That's what it equals. Like, you're somewhat unfavorable otherwise. So over a third of people literally feel the way I do and loathe this person. So he's dragging Trump down. And, good.
Yes. Well, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Here's the thing. Trump is in for a penny, in for a pounding with Elon Musk. and there is no out for him. There's no firing of Musk. There's no situation where he can let this guy go and have everybody think, oh, well, it's just time. The Doge thing, when they created it, they set it up as a commission, which is really what it is. And it goes till July 4th, 2026. It goes that's how long they've got to do all the stuff that they're going to do. And the idea is, I think, is that they want to announce all the wonderful things that Doge did on July 4th, pushing into the midterms to try and seal the deal. The problem is that it's already obvious that not only is Musk not going to hit the goals they're talking about without red states being utterly gutted, because that's where all this federal funding, and it partly is Clinton and Obama specifically, and Democrats in the House and Senate throwing a bone to red states for a long time, trying to make them understand the value of the federal government, and trying to make sure that they aren't left out.
We didn't target red states in the way Republicans have always targeted, particularly under Trump, but even in the past, targeted blue states. We sort of believed, we should help rural white areas get internet service, even if they're not voting for us. We should help create jobs there. But, there is a point where people have proven that they hate their self-existence so much that they feel better hurting somebody than, I guess, having a meal or health insurance. And, at some point, and I'm at that point, I'm not saying I wouldn't send them funds to help them, but I also would say, go ahead, all you're doing is screwing yourself, and they've all voted for this guy. They're angry. A lot of them are angry about the fact that they voted for this guy. The Putin stuff was a whole nother level of where a lot of Republicans, including Mike Pence, felt like they had to break away from him. I mean, honestly, I'd love to see. He must be in the 30s at this point. Like he's already a drag on everyone.
Yeah.
And if there were a congressional election tomorrow, they would get absolutely. Have you seen some of these town halls with these Republican Congress? They can't explain it. They're like, oh, so you're saying that because I took my husband's name, I can no longer vote? Which is sort of hilarious considering my wife didn't take my last name. So I guess if you're all liberal and different, women can still vote. But if you did it the traditional way and you're more conservative, you can't vote because it's not the same thing that's on your birth certificate.
Never mind the fact that I am woman, hear me roar. Donald Trump's executive order on gender and sex says that you are the sex you were at conception. Every splits out. Every embryo is female until it splits.
I hate to tell him, but we haven't developed any of those male organs yet at that point.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't know that because, as we
so
hear,
we're all
he still
women.
has a mushroom.
So much for the whole men and women's sports. There are no men. Everybody's a woman now because they're so slapdash with their bullshit writings. And I don't think that's going to change. I think hubris and ignorance are our friend in some cases. Will they be dangerous in some places? Abso-fucking-lutely. But there are areas where in the courts, particularly, there will be so many workarounds where people go I not only am I not going to abide by that executive order, no one could, and here's 10 reasons why. Because
and they're not even specific enough to sometimes. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and again, I also think we benefit from the ego of the right in many ways, that they don't want to give up what power they have. That these guys have, and one of the reasons why they support Trump is because he reflects their own power-grubbing, gross, hierarchical view of self on them.
Gaudy, gauche, exactly. He's their whole thing, but also he has a hold on a part of their base, and now, besides that part of their base that's still dumb enough to support him no matter what, the cultists, lots of the others that sort of said, oh, I guess I'm going to vote for Trump or whatever because of disinformation and this and that, now realize that they did something very stupid. All they had to do is look at the stock market on Friday. All they had to do is look at inflation flying up. All these things they supposedly cared about. I'm taking pictures every place I go to that, that has a sign that says, chef salads are now more expensive because of eggs and things like that. Like they can't, they've everything they said they were going to fix, they've made about 1,000% worse.
Right. And the egg thing is a perfect example of that. Okay, so Trump thinks he's going to bring down the price of eggs because of fuel prices going down. But you can't drive a rotten egg any faster to a market and have it consumed. It has nothing to fucking do with the price of eggs. The price of eggs is caused by an avian flu outbreak. And at the same time, there are other issues that have to do with inflation, but a lot of them have to do with like a trade war he's setting up for farmers between China and the U.S. and Mexico and the U.S., which will drive up the cost of it.
And deporting people so that companies have to hire people twice as expensive to work for them are maybe two of the biggest ways you can ensure there are inflation. He's literally doing. It's almost like he went out of his way and said, "What can I do to create more inflation?" And that is what he's doing.
Yeah. There is God, it's really
it's such a big pile of stupid.
It's so dumb.
Cruelty gets to me, but the stupid, almost, because cruelty, obviously, I feel so sorry for people caught up in this that didn't vote for it. But the stupid is just everywhere. And it makes you just believe at this point, like, I don't know what ketamine's doing to Elon Musk's brain. I don't know, whatever Trump's, like snorting whatever he snorts or whatever the hell he does is doing to him. But these two people, they live inside this bubble that they created for all their other stupid people. They really believe, it seems, that these things, like most of these government programs you're cutting, in almost every case, are investments in things that save us money. So in the end, if you cut people, if you end up getting rid of people, here'd be an example. Like I brought up the other day, the lampreys in the Midwest and the Great Lakes, right? One of the guys they fired, of course, who worked in keeping the lampreys down, was a Trump guy. You're sitting there like, good job, dude. Well, I voted for him because I thought he was going to deport people and blah, blah. Well, when those guys, lampreys that honestly look like creatures out of like the X-Files, by the way, they look pretty scary. When there are more of them in the Great Lakes, they eat all the fish. Guess what happens with the fishermen? They have nothing to fish. They lose their jobs. They need more government assistance, and then we're spending a ton more money. Like, these are preventative programs,
right?
It's like treating somebody, before they're sick versus waiting till they end up in the emergency.
The lampreys are the polio of the Great Lakes, and if you have somebody at the EPA or at the FDA, who is coordinating to deal with these invasive species, it is very similar to like this kind of like let nature roll attitude that that they have now at the National Institute of Health under Health and Human Services under Kennedy.
Right.
And again, by the time there's going to be a lot of blue states that will pick up the slack because they have the money to do it. And so watch for the secondary funding to come from and lawsuits. I would assume. Yeah,
I wonder at some point when California and New York just say "F you," I've had enough. Again, I'm not even encouraged. I'm not looking for civil war. I don't think that's, and I don't even mean that. I mean literally, maybe for once behaving the way Republicans behave, and just being who say no, we're not going to do anything about the debt ceiling. No, we're not going to pass the budget. No, and just say no, we're not going to give you the money. You're imbeciles. The way you went to California and dictated you have to change your policies. You're going to get our money. Well, that's the fourth largest economy in the world. Maybe they should be going and saying, how about if you can get Arkansas and you can get Alabama and you get Mississippi to change their policies, maybe then we'll be net payers into the system. Right. We're not paying for you to be stupid, for you to ignore basically all known science from the last 200 years. Yeah. If you want to do that, we're not, and I don't know when that happens, but I have to believe that blue states are going to get sick of it at some point. And I'm not saying that from a blue state. I'm sitting here in Ohio. We're not as bad as Alabama or whatever, but we net take in funds, and we're going to get screwed at some point too. And you know what? We should. Yeah, I agree. Tara's waiting in the background. I want to remind everybody before you go, Cliff, that tomorrow, starting at 8 a.m. our time, I think you're going to be on the Pacific Coast. You're going to be on with Stephanie Miller, and then you're going to stream for 12 hours straight on your Substack. Yeah, it actually is. It's actually going to be 5 a.m. your time. I'm starting 8 a.m. Eastern. Oh, okay. David Schuster, who's going to join me. Oh, great. And then we're going to go. I will be simulcasting on Stephanie at 11. And then great folks like you and John Fugelsang and other wonderful people who everybody here knows and loves will be joining throughout the day. So excellent. Well, I look forward to it. I will, I'll do my own little simulcast if you don't mind when we get together. Totally should. So yeah, and we'll spread the love around and get the conversation rolling. And in the meantime, everybody should subscribe to Cliff's Substack and mine. I just want to say it's a relaunch of the Substack of a letter we had online in like You know, I think right now we're the 4th biggest political Substack. So we're at about 620,000 subscribers.
Awesome.
So I'm kind of excited.
Let's build this
Thank
mother.
You.
Let's do it. I appreciate you coming on.
Some left media out there that actually, you know, convinces people and reaches people.
Right, and that can allow me to afford a studio hookup that I don't have to require. I don't have to use like open source stuff to get my guests on the show. We'll work on that later. Yeah. Anyways, you're awesome.
With the microphone and these and this and not knowing what the hell I'm doing.
Exactly. All right. Thanks so much, brother, and I will see you tomorrow.
Yes,
all right.
I will.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me on, pal.
Absolutely. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Cliff. And let's see. I'm going to bring in our dear friend Tara Dublin. And hopefully we won't have the same issues there with Tara. There she is. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Good, and I can hear you just fine. While I was sitting and waiting, I couldn't hear Cliff, but I could hear you.
Yes.
So as long as everybody can hear us, and then
you sound
fine.
great. See, it's it's so hit and miss. I feel like, but this is a hit. So thank you for joining me. By the way, lots of stuff obviously for us to cover. Awesome shirt,
Lots.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Thank you.
This is. I think we need to have like. I'm sure you saw today that somebody played a video in the HUD cafeteria and all over the TVs. They were running around unplugging TVs because of this video of Trump licking Elon Musk's feet. That it was apparently
accurate, so
it was made with Grok AI. So yeah, insofar as we know.
What did you Doge? I mean,
right.
Obviously, the Hitler Youth hackers didn't have anything else to do, and they did that.
Yeah.
And while I will always contend that AI is the devil, I'm not a fan. Anything that embarrasses Donald Trump is okay with me. I don't care where it comes from. I don't care how they put it together. If it triggers him and makes him big mad, good. Do it. Do it all day, every day, at top volume everywhere. That's what we want, because he's going to see that. He's already got, the thinnest skin ever. His feelings are already hurt, and he's big mad at Elon. Anything that continues to fracture their relationship is a plus. So, yes, all good, all good. We need to be laughing at this and laughing at them, because that Trump hates being laughed at. And
it's the only thing that really gets to him. Call him a dope and laugh at him. Right.
He hates to share the spotlight. He doesn't want to share the credit. He doesn't want anyone else usurping any of his power.
Right.
So the more people call Elon president, great.
Yeah.
And the more that you can shine a light on how they're all failing, but someone's failing bigger than someone else, great, do it. Awesome. I heard you say, and I want to know more about this. That somebody said that they thought that this administration would just implode within 30 days.
Yeah, Carville came out.
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
Mwah.
yeah.
Let's do it. Then what though?
Well, again, they become lame duck and flailing at each other, through the rest of the year, trying to like put the toothpaste back in the tube that they screwed up, because they've already, the big talk is everything they're doing will trigger a recession, and that's that was something they threw at Biden all the time, and it never happened. But this time around, they're looking at 3.5% inflation, up from what was happening. Like the Inflation Reduction Act was actually working, and then basically he comes in and throws a monkey wrench in that is outside the parameters of said act. And again, in his failure to understand Schoolhouse Rock, keeps calling his executive orders bills.
Not.
Yep. And so the budget is my favorite part. Now, you and I can get wonky on certain issues and dive into them probably more than the average person. Certain things you just start it becomes your rabbit hole of choice. And lately, the budget fight in the House and the Senate is a glory to watch. The Senate wants 2 bills because they want to pass his border funding and military funding and National Guard funding is in there as well for the border, and then the Coast Guard, and that adds $340 billion to Biden's budget from last year. So all of Biden's spending plus $340 billion, with the idea that they will, in their second bill later this year, they're going to cut stuff. And so, yeah, this part goes up, but we're going to cut all all the things that Doge finds, we'll cut them out of the second bill. And so pass this one, let Trump have a win, and then we'll cut all this later, which they know they can't cut. This is the Senate putting all these Republican districts up against a fucking wall in the second bill. It becomes a must pass because, again, they all benefit from it. The House wants one big, beautiful bill. That's the Trump one. Now, why? Because in it, they are throwing Trump a bone and raising the debt ceiling $4 trillion so that if they find $500 billion worth of cuts through Doge that they can pretend exist, can extend his tax cut in it. So that's why. The $4 trillion is literally so that he can extend his tax cut. It would be $4.5 trillion hole in his budget, and so they want to patch it with $4 trillion in raised debt ceiling. And the idea is that, in theory, they give him wiggle room every year to shoot past the debt ceiling by $1 trillion. And let me tell you, the people going to the floor and freaking out, red-faced, waving stuff in the air about Trump's budget or Mike Johnson's budget or even Thune's version of this half split are not Democrats. Democrats are smart. And Carville was saying it's going to implode in 30 days, and Democrats need to sit back and let it happen. Don't save your resistance for when other people are calling for it. Other people, okay. The American people are going to, at some point, go, what the fuck, on a very loud level.
Yeah, why don't you wait a little?
We already are,
though. You know, I mean, we are. We have been since November.
We're not. He's not. Yes, exactly. Yeah, but the other people that aren't, where they're giving him enough rope to hang himself, or they're extending him this grace period time of 100 days or whatever, that day is lurching towards us, and everything he has asked for will exacerbate the economic problems he was going to solve, and he said he was going to solve, and not fix them. And in 30 days, they will be at the point where they can see the 100 days, they can see it's not going to happen, and the numbers are going to start ticking up worse than they already are now. His numbers are going down, Musk's are going down, because the people that listen and pay attention, like you and I, the watery zone of people who are up on politics but are right-wing or are in the independent world, are paying enough attention to when they're doing these polling, it started to go down because they're recognizing, oh, okay, they are a bunch of fuck-arounds. This isn't going to work. It was all a lie. Now, you and I knew, it's very frustrating. The most frustrating part is sitting there waiting for these assholes to wake up. But he's basically saying in 30 days, that's where the trajectory is going to be set in stone. And we're going to be looking at a rough summer and a rough fall. Obviously, blue states will be a little better off, but red states are fucked.
Oh, well, it's not like we didn't try to warn you all. So
right.
Then you have to look at what happens after that. Let's just say that in 30 days, Republicans are like, fuckery. Oh, no, let's get rid of this. I mean, there are a few different ways to remove Trump. There's the 25th Amendment. There's impeachment, which there is a third impeachment coming from Democrats, and we can see how that's going to play out. But then we get J.D. Vance. We still have the same people doing the same fuckery. You just remove Trump as a figurehead and you put in a different one. And there was never the forensic audit of the 2024 election that we all absolutely deserve to have. And we should still have it. Maybe they can include that as part of the third impeachment. But like when I don't see how this is a winning thing for us, because regardless of what happens to Trump, Republicans are still in power. And that's the problem. Republicans are always the problem. And so it's getting them out of power and restoring our Democratic majority, which we can do with the special elections in April. Yes. So that's something else to look forward to as they're crashing and burning, lifting up Democrats, particularly the ones who are going to announce a new congressional run, like our friend the Major, and all of these great people who are standing up and speaking out. And it's about, lifting those voices while also continuing to push the truth out as much as possible. And I've always believed that there was a point where this would become not sustainable because of their infighting and their jockeying for position and the obvious fuckery and losing consistently in the courts, which is where our strength really is right now, because there's a lot of things they can't do because they can't change what's going on in the courts, and that's why Joe Biden made all of those appointments. So it's like you make 2 steps forward, but then you get yoinked back a little bit. 2 steps forward, get yoinked back a little bit, and so the progress, like you said, will be slow and incremental, but we're making progress.
That's right.
And
it's
just frustrating that more people don't know about it.
Yeah, and also I would argue that, and I think your point that the Democrats need to be more vocal about what they're doing in their wins, I completely agree. I do feel like, and Carville is obviously, not just speaking off of the top of his head. He's speaking to and around, Democratic leadership. He's on the phone with these guys all the time, and that is clearly part of the strategy. And it is a strategy. You could disagree with it, but it is an actual strategy, and I think it's a smart one. Temporarily, that the next 30 days, there's an element of MAGA believes that Trump's stuff would have worked if Democrats hadn't tried to stop him the whole time. And there's an element of the Democrats going, okay, we got to work in the states to make sure our citizens are protected in our states. But we've also got to let him roll with what he's doing so they can see that it doesn't work on its own. Not because we stopped him or he faced liberal opposition in the courts, because quite frankly, a lot of the court opposition he's seeing is from his appointees from last time or other Republican appointees. That's going to be a regular thing. And this is, let me show you this.
Well, give them enough rope, right? You give them enough rope.
I'm gonna show you this. This is the video that was, this is gnarly. This is the video that was playing at HUD headquarters today on all the TVs.
Yeah, again, this is when I don't mind AI so much. Just when it's used in the right way. If you're using AI to humiliate Donald Trump, I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't really care where you're aligned politically. However, at the same time, it's still fully fucking abnormal what's happening. But and every small act of resistance will add up. So one of the things, and I had Andrea send this to you. I hope that it came through into your email, but one thing that they leaked the HR email for Doge, because Elon was like, federal employees, you better email me your top 5 accomplishments from last week or you're getting fired. Right. So he put that, and now people are just emailing him and emailing the Doge HR at OPM to fuck with him. And I emailed my 5 accomplishments, and I think everybody should. Everybody should just overflow their inboxes, and mine was like, fuck you, Nazi. And I this is what I did this week, Nazi. I showed everybody that you were a Nazi, and then you're a Nazi, and then over here you're a Nazi. And then I cleaned my cat's boxes and realized you're a giant piece of shit Nazi. And and everybody who emails them, just
what's the email address again? What is it?
Did you not get the screenshot? I believe it's HR at opm.gov.
Office of Personnel and Management.
I believe that's what it is.
HR email.
Let me wait 1 second. Let me look at my screenshot, and I will tell you here. Yes, it's HR at opm.gov. And here's what I wrote. I will read it to you. Dear ketamine cooked Nazi, here are 5 of my accomplishments from this week. Number 1, making sure everybody knows that you're an unelected immigrant Nazi bureaucrat. Number 2, calling Republicans and asking them to speak out against you because nobody fucking elected you, Nazi. Number 3, posting about you being a Nazi across all my socials. Number 4, appeared on 3 podcasts to talk about you being a Nazi. Number 5, I cleaned my cat's litter boxes, which reminded me that you're a humongous piece of shit Nazi. And I'll be doing the exact same this week and every week until you get the fuck out of my government. That's what I emailed. So, yay, First Amendment, while we still have it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it again this Friday. I'm going to do it every Friday. I'm going to email them every Friday saying, hey, fuck you, Nazi. This Jew says, fuck you, Nazi. In different ways.
You know what I'm going to do? I know you may not approve because it's AI or whatever, but I'm going to make an AI that goes through my shows for the week and takes notes on all the stuff I say about Elon Musk and then emails him a summary at the end of the week automatically.
Good. I'm good with that. I am good with that. Another reason
that'll work.
why I wore this Yeah, the other reason why I wore the Schoolhouse Rock shirt today is because I've had the No More Kings earworm since last week. Because I don't know if anybody else recalls the American Revolution, but I do because I remember history. And the reason we had an American Revolution is because we wanted no more kings. We don't want a king. We don't want a dear leader. We don't want that. So, like, the entire week I've been like, rocking and a rolling, splishing and a splashing over the horizon. What can it be?
Could it be?
There's a reason we had the Boston Tea Party. There's a reason for the American Revolution. Next week, I get to go see Hamilton again here in Portland on tour. So you want to feel extra wicked patriotic? Watch Hamilton. Watch it. I think everybody should watch Hamilton because, I mean, it's not, you know, the accuracy of a real history book. You're not exactly reading the book about Hamilton, but there are moments in Hamilton that should make you cry because you are feeling the swell of patriotism, specifically the Battle of Yorktown moment when they're like, immigrants, we get the job done. That always gets a huge round of applause from the audience, but pretty sure it's going to get a bigger one this time around. But the whole Battle of Yorktown about how, and so the American experiment begins with my friends all scattered to the winds. It's, you want to feel like a swell of patriotism. That's a good one. That's a good one. Just to remind everybody that we're fucking Americans and not Russians. And if you want to go live in Russia, go ahead.
Knock yourself out, right? Have fun,
go,
right?
Go on. Take
a lot will stop you.
Armstrong Pete Hegseth with you, and Marco Rubio, and Dan Bongino. Take the Bongolio and Cash Patel with you. Yes. You know, Dan Bongino blocked me on Twitter in 2016. So, you know.
Yeah, me too. I'm the reason he stopped doing clips on his show.
I love it.
Because I only do, you know, I'll take like moments of stuff because basically somebody does an hour show or a 2 hour show and they take a piece out of it and I'll go, okay, that's the essence of your argument then. I didn't cut it. You did. I'm not going to go into your show and take stuff out. You put that out there and you went, this is a great example of me and what I do. Right?
That's right.
And if you do that, then, you know, the same thing is true of, I guess, my clips. If somebody wanted to take my shit and break it down, now I go segment by segment. I don't isolate it because there's just too much brilliance, quite frankly.
That's correct.
But yeah, it is. But I would like to remind everybody, I don't know if you have Proton Mail, but one of the ways you can set up a nice spoiler email account is to use Proton Mail because it's untraceable and all that kind of stuff. Proton.me. It's, I think, mail.proton.me, but look up Proton Mail and you'll see it. It's also great if you have, sock puppet accounts or whatever, and you want to do it through that thing and you don't want it to come back to you. And it's not as traceable as like Gmail or those kind of things. And I know some people are worried about pushback. I don't believe in black blocking in person. Show up when you're marching and all that kind of stuff. But if you're doing stuff online and you need to, like listen to what's going on in a group and not let them know, oh, here comes Tara Dublin rocks. She's not gonna, everybody be on your best behavior or hide what you're doing or spend all your time attacking her. If you can really listen to what they're really talking about, sometimes it helps to have a sock puppet account. And the way you do that is have a Proton Mail account. I'm just saying it's a safe email alternative to the standards and that kind of thing. And then you can bounce it through another account if you want to.
And then maybe you won't be so suppressed because you're not you, right?
Yeah.
And like I'm suppressed as fuck on not just the shitter, but on the Meta apps also now. All you have to do is tag Zuckerberg one time and call him Poodle Perm. He doesn't like it. He just doesn't like it. And for some reason, like the past few days when I've opened Facebook, the first thing I see is one of Mark Zuckerberg's memories. Like, here's me and my pregnant wife from 2015. I'm like, who gives a fuck? This doesn't make you any less of a shithead now. Like, you're compromised now. What are you trying to do? Is this an apology tour? It's not working.
Yeah, there's a phrase that some people need to become familiar with that was popularized when talking about selling to boomer/Gen Xers, older age, younger boomers to older Gen Xers, called egonomics. Egonomics became a thing where nobody wants to have the same thing as everybody else. There was a fit in with the Joneses as opposed to keep up with the Joneses thing in the 50s where you didn't want to buck the trend. If everybody in your neighborhood had a silver car, you had a silver car too. You didn't get the one black car or paint your car blue. You tried to, fit in. And anybody who bucked that was like, all right, simmer down, right? That was the attitude in most neighborhoods. And it was sort of a move post-war towards normalization. This happened after the Vietnam War and a bunch of other stuff. And it's how most fashion trends go. And then somewhere around the late 90s, early 2000s, there was this pop where Hyundai and all these other companies were going to sell you a car, and you could pick from 1,600 colors, and they would basically give you a custom paint job to you when it rolls off the lot. And at one point they were like, instead of having Toyota across your thing on the back of some Toyotas, you could get your last name, they'd make you one of those things and you could swap them out at the dealership and that kind of stuff. And that was based on this concept of egonomics. It didn't take off as much as they thought it did because people aren't looking to muscle past everybody on the block like this. We're not all elbows all the time the way Trump is at a gathering of world leaders.
Right.
But it definitely applies to a slice of these, shoved in a locker nerds who now have billions of dollars crowd, and the Donald Trump poser crowd who have managed to get, convince a bunch of people, like Swaggart convinced people that he was a pious human being. They've convinced other people that they are businessmen, right? And they've managed to do this, and they're afraid people will forget that, because the minute they dismiss it, you start looking at what the real numbers say, and they're like, oh, well, you're full of shit. This is garbage. And so they want their name on everything. Trump wants every Trump Tower, Trump everything. He's got to be Trump. He's got to say his name Trump all the time. And Musk is doing the same thing with Meta now. Zuckerberg is doing the same thing with Meta in the same way that Musk is taking this X brand and running it across everything else, naming his kid that. They're doing this. This is the egonomics crowd. This is who it's actually for. And the thing is, it only works with people who are afraid people will notice they're a fraud. Egonomics ultimately only worked in that way, right? Which is, I find fucking fascinating, that like who picked up that and ran with it. So that's why you're going to see it. And get used to the idea, because there's going to be, I think there are a couple people, Mark Cuban, Jeff Bezos, for example, who don't need to do it, and they know they don't need to do it, and they I would argue they're like pulling a Prince, like pull back more. The more people want to see from you, the more you pull back. I think both of them are kind of doing their version of that. But Musk and these guys are just falling straight into the trap. Musk and Zuckerberg and Trump, and it's all ego. And the problem is those compete. There can only be one. It's like the Highlander, right? So look at Kash Patel's first email to his staff after he comes in. What was it? Was it like, we're going to go after the deep state? No, it was disregard the email from Elon Musk.
Which is really interesting, because they're supposed to be a united front of evil.
Right.
And they're not.
They're not.
There's plenty of dissension in their ranks, which is weird to watch, because like even some of the Republican senators who voted to confirm these people stood up and were speaking out against some of the other people. So you had Tom Tillis, pushing through RFK Jr., but then standing up and saying shit about Kash Patel. So it's interesting when Republicans speak out, and why. Like what makes them lay down for some things, but then stand up and go, no, on other things. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like I'm trying to watch I'm watching what's going on. There is a lot of pushback on certain things. Like when people who worked in national parks, all of them got fired, and then people were complaining, and then those people got rehired. And when we pushed back against certain things, then they like when they were freezing things, then we got them to unfreeze things, because enough of us were pushing back, and enough Republicans stood up. And I'm curious as to what drives the Republicans now, because there are some things they're okay with that's going on, but then there are other things that they're not okay with. And I don't think that this is a situation where you can cherry pick. I think you are either obstructing or you're laying down. I don't think I just feel like you can't half-ass this. So if you're a Republican and you're seeing what we're seeing, and you've gotten death threats, like Tom Tillis got death threats. So you got a death threat to confirm Pete Hegseth, but then you went out and spoke openly on the Senate floor. Can you pick a lane and stay in it? Like, if you're going to tell us the truth about one person, can you tell us the truth about everybody?
Right.
That's where I see glimmers of hope, but I don't know which ones to believe are real and which ones are just like smoke and mirrors to try to appease voters. It's like we see all of these Republicans went home during the recess and then they got their asses handed to them at the town halls, right? Are they going to take that back to Washington, or are they going to forget everything that people screamed at them and keep voting the party line because they're scared?
Yeah. See, I think
do you know what I'm saying? And it's like glimmer
absolutely.
and then dashed, glimmer of hope dashed. And so like,
well,
you're fucking with our emotions here too.
No, if you're looking, don't ever rest your mental or psychological or emotional well-being on or your intellectual well-being on the consistency of Republicans in MAGA land, because it's a game of hypocrisy, ping pong all the time. It's to an absurd level, right? It's never going to be there. So what you can only do is track their fear like the weather, and right now it's starting to drizzle and they're picking their outfit for the next month because they know what's coming. They're pretending they don't, because they're giving Trump the benefit of the doubt, and they've sold everybody that, hey, dude knows what he's fucking doing, and he's here to save America and make America great again. And so that's what I'm here to do. I want to make America great again, right? That's what we all want to do, right, guys? And then when Trump starts to fuck up, and he already has, and they can see like they're getting these markers back. They're these constituencies, these Republican Congress people, for example, that are getting an earful. A lot of them are rich business people in those districts. They make a lot of money. They have a lot of investments. That's how they ended up being in office in the first place. They can afford to fund their own campaign in a district around people. So they own the business in town. It used to be you had to worry about the rich guy in town lobbying the congressperson who was a regular, and this person would have too much control over this guy. Now they're the same fucker. And so these guys go back. The difference is that in that old parallel kind of lobbyist versus congressperson, when they're not the same being, the congressperson could ebb and flow away from that lobbyist, and both of them could, business-wise, they could make different business decisions based on, what the congressperson was doing, or the congressperson could ignore this person for a little while if it didn't work. If it was like, oh, fuck, this guy's asking me to do shit that will fuck up me getting reelected, whatever. So there was at least this whole idea that they were subsidiarily owned by that person was sort of a myth about money in politics. It was always there, and they certainly do have undue influence. Look at Menendez and the fucking king of Egypt or whatever, the prime minister of Egypt. Right. Obviously that's a problem. But there was at least that tug and pull. Right now, though, these guys are on the hook monetarily for the fuck up that Trump is doing, and they're embedded. Like the earful isn't his problem. He doesn't care about his constituents. He's there to make money for himself and his people and all that kind of stuff because he is the lobbyist congressperson at the same time. The problem is what Trump is doing is going to lose him money. And so if he wasn't, if he was just the lobbyist in this situation and not the congressperson, he'd be calling the congressperson going, tell this motherfucker to lay off. The lobbyist part of him would be saying this, but he can't. And if he was the congressperson alone in this part of it, he would tell the constituents in his area that voted for him because he supported him that I differ from him and I can move away from him. But he can't. He's not allowed because of MAGA. So these guys are fucking fused to this. They're duct taped to this fucking train, and it is headed towards a broken bridge, and there's nothing they could do about it. I don't think most of these fuckers, again, we've heard them say this whole like, if people are mad at you, you must be doing something right. That shit, right? They say this stuff all the time. Not if they're the people who voted for you, you dumb motherfucker. And certainly not the people that gave you the benefit of the doubt in your watery 60-40 Republican versus Democratic, constituency. And if the 40% go, wait a fucking second, and the 60% go, this guy's not who I thought he was, even if a minority is against you, you can still fucking lose because these people will be turned off. That's what they're staring at. That's why everybody's like, somebody said, like one of the Republicans allegedly said, like, today's the day we lost the midterms. Like,
good.
Yeah.
If we're going to have them.
And they're the ones saying it, not us. Like,
good. They should be scared and they should be mad. Did you see what happened in Idaho? there was a town council meeting, and these people stood up, and this woman was talking and asking questions, and a whole bunch of men who were dressed completely in black physically removed her, and no one did anything. No one did anything to protect the woman. No one questioned who those men were. No one knows who hired them. No one knows where they came from. They just know that this woman was exercising her First Amendment right to ask questions in a public setting, and those men silenced her by removing her physically. And the fact that nobody fought them. I mean, if I had been in the room, and there's not really anything you could do to get me to go to Idaho, but I would go to Idaho if it meant that I was standing up and protecting fellow people exercising their First Amendment rights to challenge what we're seeing from our elected Republican officials. And that's all she was doing. Is her right as an American taxpaying citizen, her First Amendment rights were being violated. And we're going to keep seeing shit like that because they don't like it when we ask questions. Why do you think Joy Reid just got fired? Why do you think Alex Wagner just got fired? Now, maybe Alex Wagner isn't as good at her job as Joy Ann Reid is, but they are silencing people who are telling the truth that they don't want other people to hear. That's why they're suppressing Joy Reid, why they fired a black man and a woman from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's weird, right? So when we're seeing this, because we're seeing it, because they're doing it right fucking in front of us, call it out. You have to call it out immediately and blow it up and ask questions. And make sure you're not asking questions just into the abyss. Ask questions of Republicans. Send Republicans these clips like, why'd this happen?
Right.
Why did this happen? Why did you do this? Why did you do this? You make phone calls, and I've said this repeatedly on your show. Any American citizen can call any sitting member of Congress. And so that's why I spent a lot of time last week calling Republican members of Congress. I called John Thune and left him voicemails. I spoke to the person who answers the phone for Bill Cassidy and the person who answers the phone for Tom Tillis. They don't have answers, but that doesn't mean you don't call and ask.
Yes.
You know, why are they doing this? I want to know why.
The pressure does actually work. Yes. So
it does.
So the gathering in Kootenai County of the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee, the KCRCC, was where this. Yeah, right. The CCC. Remember, the CCC was the Concerned Citizens Council or whatever that shit was, which was like a code for KKK a long time ago that they created or whatever. It's just fascinating. And again, Idaho, lily white as fuck. And again, this was this dude who came in and like grabbed her by the arm while another lady was filming or whatever, and they're like he's pulling her out of her seat and all this kind of shit. Like, the idea that they were using it was like, this is a private gathering. Well, it's in a public school. Get your own shit, Mr. Hierarchy, Mr. Meritocracy. If you want a private gathering, then fucking rent someplace. Don't use the public grounds. And then where the law applies to everyone. Because in a private setting, on private grounds, you rent a hotel fucking room or whatever, and somebody interrupts your shit, you can have them taken out by your own security or anybody else because you paid for that space, and it's not a free speech space. It's for your group to talk amongst themselves. Nobody has a problem with that. The problem they have in this particular instance is A, who the fuck are these guys? But B, the fact that this woman was on public grounds and they didn't like the questions she was asking, so they want to get rid of her instead of just being able to answer them and say, we don't have the same concerns you do. The almost bigger than the physical assault that I'm sure she's got a case for, which will be great. The sheriff allegedly stepped out of the room. You know this part? He was like, I was not in the room when it happened or whatever. And it sounds like these guys went, hey, take a break. And he left so they could do this. So he had plausible deniability. It reeked. And so, they called it a town hall, but it was a Republican Central Committee town hall, right? That's what but it doesn't matter. It's on public grounds. Fuck you. I don't care. If you're gonna, if you want to be all meritocracy and we're the people who make America great, then why can't your party afford to get a private hotel conference room, asshole? The other thing is,
tent in your own fucking backyard. Like,
exactly. Meet at some rich asshole's house. What's wrong with you? Right?
There's all kinds of private fundraisers that happen all the time for politicians that you have to buy a ticket to get in, and it's a private event in a private home, and the people can't crash, and that's how, smaller politicians end up getting bigger and bigger because they get private money, and that's all private behind closed doors. I'll tell you right now, if I was in a public space like that and somebody put their hands on me, oh boy.
Yeah.
I mean, I just would not stop. I would scream, get your fucking hands off me.
Well,
you have no right to put your fucking hands on me. And it's just, again, like there are some people who have been socialized into, okay, well, I'm not going to make a scene. I would make the biggest fucking scene. If I was Tom Tillis and somebody said, you're going to vote for Pete Hegseth or you're going to fall out of a window one of these days, I would have called a press conference. I wouldn't have just laid down. That's just me, though. Not everybody is going to stand up and speak out. Some people are going to be intimidated, and that's, you know,
one of my favorite things.
You can't do that anymore. It's not normal. Just don't do it.
Well, one of my favorite things that they threw around during the election in the lead up, because they were trying to justify voter ID without providing it for free, which is the only issue. The only issue with voter ID is that all the IDs that they list cost money. And if you have to pay to vote, it's a poll tax. Fuck you, end of story. And if you establish that that's okay, that a poll tax in that form is okay, then you can do it later on. You can go, well, we charge for IDs, and so people have to pay to have an ID. So obviously a fee to come in and vote, you know, for the facility, we have to pay a facility fee. And so it's going to cost you $35 to vote or whatever. So anybody in a, like, making $7 an hour, you know, they're going to have to work, you know, half their work day to pay to vote. Like that kind of shit. Whereas rich people won't even blink. It doesn't cost anything. Right. That's another way of doing poll tax. So it's against the law, period, end of story. But instead of providing that, they want to argue, well, about the cultural aspect of it, or, you know, or what have you. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care who you are. If you're going to make everybody have an ID, a photo ID, then you have to, the federal government, because it's a federal election, has to provide that ID, and it can never be taken away. It is who you are. It is, it establishes that you're a citizen. If anybody uses it against your will, 5 years in prison. I give a shit. But everybody should get one. Okay. But one of the things they were throwing around was during the DNC, Trump was saying, like, you need like 5 different types of ID to get into this thing, but they don't want voter ID. Okay, first of all, the DNC is a private gathering of a political party. It's not a government entity. Never was. It's the party of people who support political ideas that try to get people elected. It's not it's not a department of the Democratic National Committee or the department of the Republican National. These are private groups. And if these private groups say it's only for our members, they're allowed to do that by American rules, as long as they're not excluding because of, you know, racism or sexism. Who gives a shit? They
didn't actually exclude anyone at the DNC.
Right.
I was there, and so was Mike Lindell.
Exactly.
So,
and I would argue, and all you had to do,
money to get in. You were given a pass. That's how you got in.
You had to sign up for it.
You one of the levels of passes, and you got in. So people who came from the right-wing media had the same access as the rest of us. It was a very even playing field.
Well, and to the point of this woman being dragged out of there is that these folks, if it's a private meeting of the Republican Party, then have credentials, have people sign up, and you can only get in if you're on the list because you're having this organization. Here's the problem, though. The assumption is, because it's fucking Idaho, that everybody's a Republican. So they don't bother. They don't think, like, who would have the fucking nerve to come in Idaho into a gathering of us and give us what for? And
Democrats?
Yeah, exactly. And they're starting to fucking find out. And
women,
again,
by the way, it's women.
Yes,
it's always women, except
she,
unless you're a former NFL punter.
Right. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and, you know, and again, like he did, there was like the MAGA plaque that he was going to put up. Myself and a bunch of other alumni of New Trier High School, they were at one point going to put up a bust of Donald Rumsfeld in front of the school. And I and a bunch of the other ones, I showed up and I said, look, I'm not telling you what I'm going to do, but here's what's going to happen. The day it goes up is the night it comes down.
Why
I'm just telling you.
Of all people?
He graduated from there. He graduated from our high school. Yeah.
That's dubious. What a dubious honor for your school.
So did Rock Hudson and Ann Margaret and William Baldwin and me.
Do they have statues for all of you?
They should.
They should.
Or should be
Ann Margaret statue would be pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, it'd be great. Whatever. They'd have to have what's his name? Michael Madsen, he got kicked out of there. He got sent to the same central program that I got sent to for about a week. He had to stay there permanently, though. Yeah, but Virginia went to our school too, and so did the guy who created Stomp and that kind of stuff. It's a good school. There's a lot of people.
Talent there.
Yeah, exactly. And you're gonna put fucking Rumsfeld out in front, and it was like right in front of the doors, like out in the in the center of the sidewalk area. Like fuck that. So
and who paid for that?
Oh, it'd be like the other alumni association or whatever would pay to do it, which was all Rumsfeld money. It was all like like the politics of the time. They were trying to, I don't know, justify his existence in the Bush administration.
Maybe. Like
I was like,
a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Those
fuck
aren't
off.
free either.
Yeah, so we did a very similar thing to to what he did with that MAGA plaque. A while back, and and again, I think you're going to see more and more of that. I showed you the toe sucking thing, video, the AI part of that. But one of the things, and I don't know how much of this you've seen or whatever, is that there's an increasing pushback. Musk's numbers dropped off precipitously recently by like 15 points, and Trump's dropped 20. In this big poll.
He has the lowest, Trump had the lowest rating for the first month of any presidential term since they started keeping those tabs. And also Tesla stock is tanking hard.
And that is the only place he's got money. That all of his money, there's no money in SpaceX for him as of yet. They definitely, what he's done is he's kind of parlayed what money he would have taken out of it into getting Skylink up. Or Starlink up, which is basically taking money from one business and investing it in another business because that's the one that has the most potential to make you more money. So you just don't take any profit from SpaceX and use the ability for SpaceX to launch shit to help you put your shit in the sky, right? And that's what he's been doing. So there's no cash to be had in that situation. And again, there are 3 competitors coming online for Starlink this year, including Bezos's Kuiper, which has way more funding than Musk's does, than Starlink does.
That's a relief.
Oh yeah,
but Jeff Bezos really isn't that great of an option considering what he did to the Washington Post.
I completely agree. But the difference is that Kuiper has as long as you're not sanctioned by the U.S. government, you're allowed. And sanctions like that have to pass through the House and the Senate. So the idea that they could use it against Ukraine or something won't happen. Whereas Musk has this thing, and I think the story with him later this year that's going to come out is he can turn your car on and off. He can turn your internet on and off. What the fuck are you doing? Like there's going to be a wake up moment when he fails to deliver, where they won't say I was wrong, he failed to deliver, he sold me a bunch of bullshit. They're gonna go, he was really a mole and it was suspicious, and now if you look, he can make your car run or not run, and he could he wants to have this super control. So we thought he was good at one point, but this is how you know he's still a Democrat. Like that's how they'll sell it. But they'll right. They're going to kick him to the curb.
But there's a massive movement for Tesla owners to return their cars.
Oh yeah,
to sell them back, to take them back to the dealerships. Cheryl
at the same
Crow
time,
did a video returning hers, and it's a huge protest at the Tesla showroom here in Portland and across the country. And the actor Alex Winter is the one who spearheaded that, because that's where it's going to always matter, right? If your bottom line is all of a sudden falling out, like if you're losing money because of one person, that one person will be the one that goes. Like Tesla never needed Musk. Tesla didn't need him. He just decided that looks like a good company. I'm gonna buy that to make myself look like I do shit. I
have a video that I'm going to show later on today of Peanut Butter Dickhead, Patrick Bet-David, the guy who has that valuetainment show that went right wing and has been like platforming fucking everybody. He had on, and I like. There's some people that like it. He's such a fucking clout chaser that he'll have on anybody who's just kind of in the breaking in social media. He'll bring them on. He doesn't really give a shit. He's had on Rusty Trombone, and he's had on Glenn Beck and all these other stuff, which isn't surprising. But he had on this girl, and I'm blitzing on her name right now, whose entire life is chasing down the Epstein stuff. And there is this weird thing inside Trump land this mix of like, we're going to release all this stuff when Trump was like, well, I don't know how much I want to release it because there's a lot of phony stuff.
Some of it has been released, just not all of it.
Right. Well, the point is that she has taken what's been released and then she goes through business records. She's written 2 volumes, a 2-volume book series on Epstein's connections to fucking everybody, business-wise, and one of them being that Kimball Musk's wife or girlfriend was introduced to him by Ghislaine Maxwell. That they shared an office. That some of the Tesla funding before Obama gave funding to electric car companies, and Tesla was in a good position. Musk and Epstein went to Epstein and got. Had him be one of his kind of bundler fundraisers for the company to start it going. That made it different from like, what's your part in this? These guys already have this car company. They're already doing this shit. You didn't invent it. You're not using the Lotus body and put an electric thing. That was their idea. Designing a better one, developing the design for where they're going to go as far as sedans and trucks and all that kind of shit later. That's on them. What's your fucking part here? What do you do here? Well, what he did was bring money in. Was it his own money? No. He went and apparently partnered up with Jeffrey Epstein to get this initial round of funding. Later, they wouldn't need that much because they got more from the Obama bailout in 2009. But that's where he went first. His brother's girlfriend was one of the Epstein girls. Apparently Trump's girlfriend right before he met Melania through Ghislaine Maxwell, but he also met his girlfriend right before that through Epstein and Maxwell.
He also raped 2 little girls that Epstein procured for him, and there's
allegedly.
I have shared that excerpt from the Epstein files over and over again. I recorded myself reading it because MAGA people don't read. But if you listen to what he did, and what's great is when I share that, and then the MAGA people are like, "That's AI." No, that's me. That's me reading about how Donald Trump raped a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they cried when he slapped them in the face. He slapped them in the face because they gave him a bad blowjob. I don't know about you, but I didn't know how to give a blowjob at 12. Anyway, and it's just it goes on like that. So he slapped them in the face. He also wouldn't wear a condom when he was raping them. And then after he finished raping them, they were crying because they were worried they would get pregnant. And so he threw cash at them and said, get a fucking abortion. And every time I share that excerpt, people tell me I'm sick or I made it up or I could not have made that up if you paid me. Well, if you put me in a room and left me alone, I could not have conceived of that. So it's real. It's an excerpt from the Epstein files that was released last year as part of a cache of information released by a Florida judge.
And there is no way.
It was actually Ron DeSantis who let it happen. So
right, which is why he hated Ron extra. Like a bunch of that.
That's why Ron is kissing up to him now. Like, oh, sorry, I added you as a rapist, but I still want your money.
Here's what I don't like. It's Nancy Mace and what's her name, the other girl, and the one that gave the Republican response in her kitchen.
Katie Britt.
Yeah, Katie Britt.
All the trad wives. They love these rapist pedophiles. It's weird.
It's very strange. But they are allegedly, according to them, committed to releasing all the Epstein files and getting to the bottom of it. And I'm like, knock yourself the fuck out. I can't wait for the day where they have to, they reach the line where they realize I either have to stop talking about this or Trump gets caught up into it. Or I got to say everything. Right. And that line is coming.
Bill Clinton, you guys.
Exactly.
Not at all. It's not all Prince Andrew. It's really not.
Selena Middlefart, which, is a real person. Selena Middlefart is a real person. That's a Norwegian last name, Middlefart.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It is. It's unfortunate also that allegedly Epstein cheated on Ghislaine Maxwell with her. And then she's super rich. And she dated, after Epstein passed her around, Robbie Williams, Prince Haakon, and Donald Trump.
Which is funny because Trump in Britain means fart. So
right.
Like he was fucking himself.
Yeah. And there's just no winning. She just, even if she'd married and changed her name, she would still go back to being a fart. But she was the woman that Epstein set him up with before he started dating Melania. before he traded up or traded down, depending on how you look at it. And
who really
by the
knows?
way,
but he cheated on her anyway. So
well, here you go. Remember all the shots of Trump and Epstein together, where he's wearing this shirt and this jacket.
Yep.
You've seen it a bunch of times.
Yep.
Same fucking party.
Yep.
That's her.
Yep. Oh wow. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. That's
great.
the same party, same people.
Has everyone forgotten that during the last few months of his campaign, Donald Trump was flying around in a repainted Lolita Express? Because he was doing that too. So if you're a person who is calling for the Epstein files to be declassified, just be prepared for Trump's name to be the one that's featured the most, considering we also found out that Trump had Jeffrey Epstein alter the flight logs and remove his name so it showed fewer flights instead of all of the flights he took on the Lolita Express. Like, the hypocrisy for me is ridiculous. It's like, how can you call for something that's going to incriminate Trump? What is it that you think you're doing?
Right.
Are you just not fully informed? Are you only partially informed as to this? Or do you just don't know what you're asking for in the same way you don't really understand what you voted for?
So if you'll recall, Trump,
I thought he was going to die. Oh, right, this story.
Yeah. So Trump
Just like
Trump
the
used
helicopter story.
Trump used Epstein's plane for a while, and then he passed it off to J.D. Vance. Because every time everybody thought he was flying around in Trump Force One, he was actually not. You would see it if they wanted to land it, but it was such a piece of shit. They would, it was downed all the time. It did, it was grounded, and so he would fly on this other one he rented, which they would later use to fly J.D. Vance around on the campaign trail, and that was the Epstein plane that he was famous for. And Trump apparently there was that. Remember that time they had to circle and they had to miss something and the weather was really bad and Trump had a bad landing. I want to say it was Wisconsin, something like that. Okay, apparently Trump's big panic was that he was going to die in Epstein's plane at that time. Like,
man.
it was
that would be so perfect. That would be just like mwah, because just an absolute chef's kiss, because these are the things that should have brought him down already.
It was Colorado.
And didn't.
Yeah. So he was on the Gulf Stream. He was flying to Colorado. The weather was bad. And Michael Wolff says this. He goes, the flight experienced severe turbulence, being thrown around the sky during the trip to Colorado. Trump howled during this, I'm going to die on Jeffrey Epstein's plane.
Audio. Like, only if we had that audio of him being such a fucking screaming coward. Wouldn't that be a glory? If anybody had that audio, like, that would, you just make like one of those remix videos about Just have him sound like a big fucking giant coward, because he is. And over the week, did you see the video when he was trying to threaten the governor of Maine?
Yeah.
Like, he looked
right.
so bad. Now, he's always
weak.
looked bad. There's nothing, you can't say he's ever looked great. The video from this weekend when he was threatening the governor of Maine, he's starting to look like when old men drop a whole bunch of weight right before they die. That's what he looks like right now. And you've seen that. When, like, men who are large, all of a sudden they're like, oh no, I have to wear suspenders. My pants won't stay up. I'm dying in a week and a half. I think that's like, he's entering that era. Yeah. Where he's going to rapidly decline even more. Yeah.
He also doesn't really have, and that's new to him. He's never really had a sense of his own mortality for a long time.
He's scared now.
Oh, yeah, he is. And I think a lot of people around him are using that to manipulate him as well. Because, like, if you told him about what your legacy going to be in the first term, he's like, legacy, I'm going to live forever, fuck you. And now, if you bring up legacy, he's like, oh shit, I'm going to die and everybody's going to know what I really was like. That's his big fear. And that's why he's really freaking out at Wolf's book and other stuff. But let me read you this little thing. This is so fucking telling. Like who Trump is. The plane was lurching all over the place. I've been in terrible flights. I like Chris Bono and I were on a flight where a dude shit himself. It was like the weather was so bad, you could tell it was awful. And because the plane was literally like on its side, wiggling like this. It was fucked up.
It was nightmare.
But yeah, awful. Because people were actually praying, Wolf added. Then, in the middle of it all, a report tracking the Trump team's peregrinations identified that they were riding on the former plane of Trump's old friend, the infamous sex abuser Jeffrey Epstein. He wrote, when the plane finally landed, a grateful Trump reportedly gave the flight crew a number of $50 bills, signing one for each to keep and the other one to spend.
Oh, what a guy! Whose money
so,
was that? Because it wasn't his. He doesn't spend his own
and
money.
also, like, what was it? It's like to buy his way back from the edge of death. He's going to pay like 6 people $100 in 50s.
Ooh, that's mighty white.
Whatever. Yeah.
Like the CEO of Delta offering those passengers in the plane that flipped over on the runway. They offered them $30,000 each, and they were like, "Fuck you! My life's worth a lot more than that."
More than that, yeah. Apparently, look who sent he didn't want to fly back in the plane because he was so scared. Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff sent his plane to pick him up.
Fucking user, like, and
yeah,
like again, nothing about him is real. He has no gravitas. He has nothing to say, hey, I did this. This is mine. Nothing is fucking his. He inherited and squandered, and now he's got to usurp from others, which is why he's owned by Putin. It's ridiculous how pathetic he is and how he has continuously fooled people who are more pathetic or less. I don't know the lineage, like how you quantify patheticness in people.
I think there's a mix of people. Yeah, I think there's a mix.
It's crazy. And now we're at a point where it's these people are loyal, not because they respect him, but because they're afraid they're going to die. They're afraid someone's going to off them if they don't continue to show fealty to this guy. And he's old, he's doddering, he's senile, he's got dementia, he wears a diaper, he looks like shit, he paints himself brown. And he's this old guy, and everyone else around him is significantly younger. Like Musk is only 53, and Vance is younger, and Caroline is like 27 and married to her grandpa or whatever. But like everyone around him is younger, and I think that's an interesting way to like kind of frame this because they're all trying to push him out. They're just not telling him.
Right. Yeah,
right.
Well,
and he's paranoid for that reason, and he's scared for a lot of other reasons, which is all of these reasons why it makes him weak. And so he just checks out and goes and plays golf because he doesn't want to deal with it. I don't take any responsibility. This isn't on me. This is that person's fault. That person's fault. That person's fault.
Well, that's what that I've mentioned this. I've mentioned this a bunch of times, but every time he says highly recommended about somebody that's in his cabinet, what he means is when they fuck up, I will blame someone else for telling me they could do the job. I didn't hire them. I didn't vet them. They came highly recommended.
His fault.
Not my fucking fault. It's their fault.
Nothing ever is. Nothing ever is his fault.
But I do think, whereas he was comfortable, I think, golfing and outsourcing during his first term. I think this time he's starting to feel sidelined. It's clear. And his response about stuff and his knee jerk. I mean, he's always been a fucking snowflake. He's always been super sensitive.
Right.
But when it comes to like, this President Musk stuff, it obviously hurts. And when he did that Sean Hannity interview, it was fucking pathetic. Like you could tell he was sitting there. Hannity was there to truly interview Musk and get Trump to sign off on everything Musk said, not the other way around. And that, I gotta say, that's fucking gorgeous. And it's not gonna change. It's not like it's not gonna improve.
People who are in decline continue to decline. And especially a mental decline, a physical decline. And, Trump is barely hanging on. And I think that's a big reason why he's so checked out. Like, he doesn't think anything's going to happen to him. He doesn't think he's going to face any consequences. So why not go play golf? Why not let Elon and his kid wipe his boogers all over the Resolute desk? It's so much easier because he doesn't like to work. He doesn't like to do anything except play golf. All he wants to do is play golf. I don't know why.
And talk about golf.
And talk about golf and talk about how he's the best golfer in the world and have everybody yes ma'am, yes man him to death and all of that stuff. What he cares about is so pathetic and small. And all of it is because he's owned by Vladimir Putin. So he's like the least powerful person in world history. Yeah. Because he's always been a figurehead. He's always been the Manchurian candidate. He's always been a shell and a figurehead who's just kind of shrugged and been like, oh, that didn't work. Well, that was that person's fault. This didn't happen. This one, I went bankrupt. That's not my fault. I was just charged with 34 felonies, witch hunt, like nothing. Nothing ever
Right.
sticks to him, and nothing's ever his fault until now. Until now.
so
And
the big-
everything that
yeah.
he's avoided is finally caught up to him and sticking to him. Like you didn't put a dryer sheet in when you did the laundry, and now all the
Right.
lint is on everything, and you can't get it off.
Oh, I feel seen.
You know what
yes,
I'm saying. So
I do.
It's
As a cat
so-
owner, I know. Yes.
right? And so going back to this decline, this being over in 30 days, it's not a sustainable model at all because they front loaded everything with terrible, showed their hand too early, said this is exactly what we're doing, and then finally Democrats took like 5 or 6 days to be like, well, we're gonna have hearing. Wait a minute, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And now, okay, so reiterating what we've been, we're not powerless, we're not hopeless.
Right.
This isn't going to, this isn't the end. This is a blip, and it's a big one, and it's a scary one, but it's not a sustainable one. So I like hearing from someone who knows shit, like James Carville saying, and again, when James Carville is talking, like 99% of it is like all of these down homeisms and these things, but then all of a sudden he hits you with the real shit. He's like, well, if a caterpillar isn't going to change its spots, then I don't know, a fox can't eat it. I don't know what he says, but but then he's like, but these people are fucked. Is basically what he's saying.
Yeah.
So that works for me. And if everybody just leans into that and keeps elevating that over on Blue Sky and on Substack, we're finding that those two places are the places to be. By the way, that's where people who don't want to be on
real
Meta
conversations are happening.
Are finding that home on Substack, and people who don't want to be on Twitter are finding real conversations on Blue Sky. And so I would love to see every single member of Congress over on Blue Sky, because then we don't need Twitter anymore. And having more conversations in signal rooms because you're safer there. Gather, have those conversations, ask questions, just stay awake, stay on point, and stay on them, and find where your independent voices that you've always trusted, find out where they're going when they're being pushed out by mainstream media, because the person who runs MSNBC is apparently a big Snowden fan, or their booker is or something. Malcolm Nance told me that. And so where we have to look for the truth now is going to start looking really different than what we're used to.
Yep.
But it's pursuit of truth. So everybody here on the Sexy Liberal Universe, we're good, right? Make sure you're signed up for the Political Voices Network Substack. That's growing. We are growing there. We're growing on YouTube. Also, Tara Dublin and I have a new show that we're doing on Thursdays. It's the Tara Show. We had our premiere last Thursday.
Tara Squared.
I think some sparklers were in that chat.
Yes.
We definitely had MAGA people in that chat. It was lit.
Sure.
So, and we're gonna do some fun stuff. We're gonna take phone calls.
Ooh.
Because she has that
Look
capability.
out.
We're gonna
Sure.
take phone calls and have real conversations. And I think the more that we do that, I think the better people will feel. I think the initial panic is starting to subside, because living at threat level midnight, also not sustainable. That's how you burn out. And so if you pace yourself and you take action every day, that feels good to you. Like I said earlier, small acts of resistance continue to add up. So we're going to keep doing that, and we're going to stay together, and we're going to, lean into this community, because this is how we are going to keep going and pushing back against what you feel is insurmountable, because it isn't. So it's all about supporting each other in the best way possible. So I have my Substack. Hal has his Substack. And there's everyone in Sexy Liberal needs your support.
Yeah.
And, I think, like we were talking about, the front loading of the horrific has impacted all of us in different ways. Like, this has been a really hard month. I think even harder than last month was. Because we had half of Joe Biden still last month. It's only been a month since we've had this crazy regime. But I've seen it impact me in just in ways that matter. I haven't sold as many books this month because people don't care about reading a book this month, and you should, because it's a great escape. So, hey, I made a thumbs up.
Yeah, you did.
Just make a heart. So here's what I would ask for this week. So buy my book at taradublinrocks.com. Sign up for my Substack, but maybe consider signing up at the $8 a month version, so that you can comment and be part of the conversation, rather than me just like monologuing at you, because I prefer I prefer the interaction than just being like, here's my stuff, believe it. So I would appreciate that, or maybe, you know, kick some scratch into my Venmo. It's been a rough month. It's been a rough month emotionally.
Gotcha.
It's been a rough month financially. It's been a rough month in a lot of different ways. But then there are moments of joy. Frangela says no one's going to steal our joy. So make sure that you're doing stuff that makes you feel like you, even in the middle of all of this. And that is how we will get through it. You know, I have my low bar corral. I have all of my fun stuff. I went out Saturday night and saw a band. You should do that.
Look out.
Go out and see
Yes.
it. I did. There's a great tour happening out there in the country right now. And if it comes to your city, go. It's the actor Michael Shannon teaming up with Jason Narducci and John Wurster. And they're playing all of REM's Fables of the Reconstruction album and other REM songs, which they did. They did a Murmur tour. They're doing a Fables tour. They're going to keep going. So they played the whole album, and then they play a bunch of REM songs after that. And I'm one of the biggest REM fans you will ever meet. I went to college in Athens, Georgia. It's a huge night. It was so fun. It was just fun to mentally go back to the early 90s and my time in Athens and listen. And they didn't play REM hits. They didn't play Stand or Shiny Happy People or It's the End of the World. They played the deep cuts that the real fans love. And Peter Buck was there. Peter Buck came out and played on stage along with Scott McCoy. It was incredible. And
That's
so
great.
for a couple of hours on Saturday night, it was not 2024. It was 1991. And it was beautiful and fantastic. And so, again, there is joy to be had. There is happiness to be had. There is good stuff in this world. And you do that, and it fortifies you to get back out and go kick some Nazi ass. Because that's what we're doing also. Right?
Yep.
You can only do what you can only do, and your activism belongs to you. But we're always going to be here, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing stuff. So besides here, and besides with Tara on Thursdays, I'm going to start. I've been asked. It hasn't started yet, but I think I'm going to be doing something with our friend Dean Obadela on his Sirius XM show every week as well.
Awesome.
So we're going to have multiple destinations.
Yeah.
Have the truth there in the world.
Hey, if you don't have a wealth or familial anchors in an industry or a circumstance, your friend is ubiquity. Be everywhere all at once. And take every opportunity that's laid out in front of you to get your point across fearlessly. And that's what I'm doing.
Especially if it's a paid opportunity.
That's right.
So,
well, yeah, sure.
I mean, we don't do it just for that. But this is the way we make our living. And so, and it's really important and it really matters. And supporting independent media in any way that you can is vitally important. If you have the financial means, great. If you don't, then just share. Sharing a link costs you nothing but 2 seconds of your life. So whether you're sharing our links or you're able to kick down some scratch to the people who are out here fighting, that's great. Every act of resistance matters. And every time you're here with us, that time matters too, because you're going to come in feeling one way and hopefully leave feeling a little bit better is my hope. So hi, all the kids in the chat. I'm sending you big love. I am hoping that you also don't go bankrupt. I hope that you don't get the bird flu or the measles.
Right.
Somebody decided to comment on my Instagram that measles is no big deal. Okay. See how you feel about it when your kids have it.
Yeah.
You know, stupid shit like that. I'm ready.
There's a big. Well, again,
I'm done with that already.
You and I view it from the lens of actually giving a shit. And they view it from this illusion that they are the alphas that will survive whatever it is. And they all felt this way until they ended up on a fucking respirator during COVID saying, give me whatever. Is it too late for me to take the vaccine? That's the mentality we're dealing with. And so we're trying to convince these people before they reach the find out phase that they're fucking around. And it's okay. Yeah. So anyways, you're wonderful.
We do it because we care.
That's right.
We do it because we care. Not because we have to be right or we're bullies. Or I care. I say it every week on your show. I don't want one more person to lose their life because of Donald Trump. Not the people who voted for him and not the people who didn't.
That's right.
TaraDublinRocks.com, TaraDublin.substack.com. Sign up for Hal's Substack. Make sure you're following everyone in the sexy liberal universe because we are here for you. It's all about that.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, Tara. We'll see you next week.
Love you guys. Stay safe. See you next week.
All right. Bye. There she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Tara Dublin. indeed rocking, if I do say so my damn self. And thank you guys this morning. I know we kept you over a little bit, but I appreciate you hanging around. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. I have a lot of clips this afternoon, so I'm going to do what Putin should do, and fuck off, as you do. All right, I'll see you this afternoon. Hit that like if you haven't already. Oh, and if you're on Facebook, give me a frowning emoji right now on the show. Do it on all the previous episodes too. Go through and give me that angry emoji, because apparently that's what pushes you to the top of the stack on Facebook more than any other thing, which should tell you something about the current state of social media. Love you guys. See you this afternoon. Poo picker upper. Hal, wonder if that video was from Anonymous. I don't know. That the person was anonymous, but I don't think it was the organization. I believe it was the Dogebags who posted the video at HUD. That's what I think. There's the Venmo, by the way. Buy me a cup of coffee, will ya?